He offered her $7 for work, but found a 5-child's mother fighting to survive. The year was 1872, and Dust Creek looked like God had forgotten it. Wind tore through the town's main street, kicking up old prayers and cigarette ash. A pair of dogs fought over a bone outside the shuttered saloon. Every window was half broken, every man half starved. Eli Mercer rode in slow, his horse limping from the long road behind him. He'd come west with nothing but a saddle, a scar across his jaw, and a past he didn't talk about. He tied his horse outside the trading post, stretched his back, and scanned the street. The air smelled of dust, sweat, and desperation. Somewhere a door slammed, and the echo rolled like thunder. That's when he saw her. A woman stood by the side of the post, wrapped in a tattered shawl. She wasn't begging exactly, more like bracing herself against the world. Her clothes hung loose, her boots mismatched. The sun caught her hair, dull brown but thick with dirt. She looked up just as he passed, eyes sharp but hollow. "Sir," she said softly, her voice cracked but steady. "You got any work needs doing?" "I'll scrub, so cook whatever's fair." Eli studied her. Her face was drawn thin, and there was something strange in the way she kept glancing toward the tree line beyond town. "Don't see many folks a skin for work 'stead of charity," he said. "I don't take charity," she replied, jaw tight. "Just need a chance." He shifted his weight, thinking he did need help. His cabin out near Red Willow Creek had gone near to ruin since spring. He'd been too busy chasing cattle thieves and too lonely to care about dust. "What's your name?" he asked. "Clara." "You any good at chores, Clara?" "I can do what needs doing." Her eyes flicked again toward the trees. He noticed now the faint tremor in her hand, the way her boots were scuffed from more walking than sleeping. He reached into his coat pocket, pulled out some coins. "I'll pay you $7 for a week's work. That sound fair?" Her lips parted slightly, as if the number itself was foreign. "7," she repeated. "Yes, sir. More than fair." He nodded. "We ride at sundown. If you're coming, be ready." She nodded quick, but didn't smile, just clutched her shawl tighter and murmured a thank you before hurrying off down the street. Eli watched her disappear around the corner of the mercantile, a strange feeling stirring in his chest. Part pity, part curiosity, part something he hadn't felt in a long while, concern. The sun dipped low over Dust Creek, bleeding red into the horizon. Eli loaded his supplies and waited by his horse. He didn't expect her to show, but she did. She appeared out of the shadows, carrying a small sack tied with rope. No hat, no gloves, no proper coat. Her face was pale in the fading light. "You ready?" Eli asked. She nodded. "Yes, sir." He offered her a hand to mount, but she shook her head and climbed up on her own. She sat stiff in the saddle, staring ahead. The wind howled through the empty town as they rode out. They traveled mostly in silence. The path to Red Willow Creek twisted through dry ravines and brittle grasslands. A hawk circled overhead, screeching once before vanishing into the orange sky. "You from around here?" Eli asked after a while. "No," she said quietly. "Just passing through." "Where to?" "Anywhere my children can sleep safe." The words slipped out before she could catch them. Eli frowned. "Children?" She didn't answer, just kept her eyes on the trail. He looked around but saw no sign of anyone following. No wagon, no footprint besides theirs. Still, her tension clung to the air. He changed the subject. "Cabin's small, but it'll keep the rain off. You'll find food and a bed there." "I ain't picky," she muttered. The rest of the ride passed in silence, save for the creak of saddle leather and the lonely cry of a coyote. By the time they reached Eli's cabin, the moon had risen, fat and gold behind the pine ridge. The cabin stood on a slope above the creek, a crooked thing of logs and shadows. The wind sighed through the trees like ghosts. Eli dismounted and helped her down this time. No argument. She stepped inside and took a long look around, dust thick on every beam, cobwebs swaying like curtains. "I can start with the floors," she said, her voice small. "Tomorrow's fine," Eli replied. "You look like you ain't eaten in days." "I'll work first." Her tone left no room for argument. She pulled off her shawl, revealing thin arms and a worn dress patched at least 5 times. Then she began sweeping, slow and deliberate. Eli watched her for a moment, uneasy. Something about her movements. It wasn't just fatigue, it was fear. Every sound made her flinch. "You got someone after you?" he asked quietly. She froze mid-sweep. "No, sir." He didn't press. Later, he sat by the hearth sharpening his knife while she scrubbed the floorboards. The crackle of fire was the only sound. When the flames burned low, she finally set the broom aside and whispered, "Thank you for the work." He nodded. "You can sleep by the fire. I'll take the cot." She didn't argue, just sank to her knees and whispered a prayer he couldn't quite hear. Sometime past midnight, Eli woke to a faint noise outside, like footsteps in dry leaves. He reached for his revolver and eased up from the cot. The cabin was dark, but for the dying embers. Clara was gone, heart pounding. He moved quietly to the door, pushed it open just enough to see the yard. Moonlight spilled over clearing. There, near the woodpile, asterisk, asterisk, small figures, asterisk, asterisk, huddled together. He squinted. Couldn't be animals. They were too still, too small. Then he heard it, a whisper, a child's voice. He stepped outside, boots crunching softly. The shapes jerked back into the shadows. "Who's out there?" he called. No answer, just a soft whimper of a frightened child. Then Clara appeared from the dark, her hands raised. "Please," she gasped, "don't shoot. It's just them." Eli froze. "Them?" She turned toward the woodpile. "Come on out, babies. It's all right." 5 little shapes emerged, thin, barefoot, eyes wide with fear and hunger. The oldest couldn't have been more than 12. The youngest clung to her mother's skirt, crying silently. Eli lowered his gun, stunned. "You brought them here," he said. "I didn't have nowhere else," she whispered. "We've been sleeping in the woods behind town. I was scared you'd send us away if you knew." He looked at the children, bones showing through shirts too big, faces smudged with dirt. One of them held a broken doll's head. Another had no shoes at all. "They ain't eaten proper in days," Clara said, voice trembling. "I just wanted to earn enough to feed him a little." Eli stepped closer, the firelight from inside catching the wet shine of tears on her cheeks. $7, he muttered. "That's what I offered. Didn't know it was buy-in a week of survival." She said nothing, just gathered the smallest child into her arms. Eli turned toward the cabin, jaw tight. "Bring him in." Her head snapped up. "What?" "You heard me. Bring him in. You all can stay tonight. We'll figure the rest come morning." Clara hesitated. "You don't owe us nothing, Mr. Mercer." "I know." He didn't look back as he stoked the fire, laid out his few blankets, and set a pot of beans to warm. The children crept in slowly, eyes darting everywhere. The oldest boy, barefoot and watchful, stood nearest the door like he was ready to run. The little girl clutched her doll's head tighter. Eli handed them 10 cups of stew and bread. They ate like wolves. He sat across the room, watching in silence. The air was thick with unspoken things. Fear, shame, gratitude. After a long while, Clara whispered, "We'll be gone by dawn, sir. I swear it. You've done enough." Eli shook his head. "No one's riding out in the dark. You stay. All of you." Her eyes met his then, soft brown, rimmed red with exhaustion, and something in that look held him longer than he liked. She whispered, "Thank you." He just nodded and turned toward the fire, though the flames blurred in his vision. Later, when the children were asleep in a pile of blankets, Clara sat near the door, watching them. Her hand trembled as she tucked a lock of hair from her youngest face. Eli broke the silence. "Why didn't you tell me?" "'Cause I've told men before," she said softly, "and most walked away. Some did worse." He felt his chest tighten. "You been running long?" "Long enough," she whispered. Outside, a coyote howled. The sound echoed off the hills like sorrow itself. Clara wrapped her arms around herself, shivering. "I just wanted Em to see one more winter." Eli didn't answer. He stared into the fire, feeling the weight of his revolver at his side, the weight of his own regrets heavier still. Finally, he said, You can stay as long as you need. Ain't much, but it's safe here. She blinked fast, trying not to cry. Why? He gave a faint smile that didn't reach his eyes. Figure I owe this land a little mercy before it swallows me too. By dawn, the cabin smelled of coffee and damp wood. The children stirred, whispering softly among themselves. Clara looked older in the morning light, like the night had carved new lines into her face. Eli stepped outside, squinting at the pale horizon. The frost glistened on the grass, the world cold and still. Behind him, he heard a child's laughter, small, fragile, but real. He turned to see Clara helping her youngest take his first steps across the creaky floorboards. For a moment, the scene looked almost peaceful, almost like life had found a way through the ruin. Eli's hand brushed the scar on his jaw. He thought of all the things he couldn't fix, and all the ones he still could. $7, he murmured. Asterisk, ain't much of a price for hope. Asterisk, morning came with a thin gray light, crawling through the cracks in the cabin walls. Eli woke to the smell of wood smoke and the soft murmur of children. For a moment, he didn't move. The world felt quiet, too quiet. Then he heard a small cough, the clatter of tin, and remembered the family he'd taken in the night before. Clara was kneeling by the hearth, stirring a pot of thin cornmeal. Her hair hung loose now, tangled but soft in the morning glow. The children sat in a huddle behind her, spooning from a single bowl, taking turns without complaint. Eli watched from the doorway, coffee cup in hand. He couldn't recall the last time his cabin had felt so alive. You should have let me cook, he said finally. Clara turned, startled. You fed us enough last night. Least I can do is start breakfast. You call that breakfast? He smiled faintly. She smirked for the first time. It's hot and it's food. I'd say that's a blessing. He nodded, sipping his coffee. The laughter that followed was small, uncertain, but it was laughter all the same. For the first time in a long while, Eli felt something stir beneath the dust and the scars, a flicker of warmth. By noon, the children were outside gathering sticks for firewood. The youngest toddled behind his brother, dragging a stick twice his size. Clara scrubbed the cabin floor, humming under her breath. It was a tune Eli didn't recognize, soft, sad, but strong. You run a hard camp for someone who don't take orders, he said from the doorway. She smiled faintly. Keeps my mind busy. Can't afford to think too much. He studied her for a moment, the way her hands moved, fast but gentle, like she was cleaning more than dirt. You didn't tell me why you were hiding, he said finally. She froze, rag still in hand. The humming stopped. Eli stepped closer. You said your husband died in a mine collapse. That true? Clara's eyes flicked up to his. For a second, he saw pure fear there. Then she looked away. It's partly true. Partly? She stood, wringing the rag between her hands. He did work that mine, yes, but it wasn't the mine that killed him. It was men. The room felt suddenly smaller. What men? The kind that think debt gives them ownership, she said softly. The mine foreman, Jonas Pike. He ran Dust Creek like a kingdom. My husband borrowed money for medicine when our baby took sick. When he couldn't pay, Pike said there were other ways. Her voice cracked. Eli's jaw tightened. He came after you? Clara nodded, eyes shining. My husband tried to stop him. They beat him in front of the children, left him in the dirt. Eli's hands curled into fists. And Pike still wants something. She looked away, whispering, He wants me. He said a woman's worth don't end with her man. The silence that followed was heavy as stone. Eli took a long breath, the kind that burned on the way out. You got guts, bringing 5 kids across that kind of hell. I didn't have a choice, she said simply. I run until my legs near broke. Been sleeping in barns, sheds, any place we could hide. Thought Dust Creek was far enough. Guess I was wrong. Eli turned to the window. Out in the distance, clouds were gathering over the hills, dark, low, and mean. How many men Pike got? 6, maybe more, all paid with blood money. Eli nodded slowly. Then we best be ready when they come. The next day passed in uneasy peace. The children played near the creek. Clara washed their clothes on a flat rock. Eli chopped wood until his arms ached, keeping one eye on the ridge. That night, a storm rolled in, rain slapping the roof, wind howling through the trees. The fire sputtered and hissed. Clara sat sewing near the flames, mending a child's torn sleeve. The children slept in a tangle of blankets. Eli cleaned his revolver in silence. After a while, Clara spoke. "You've killed men before, haven't you?" He looked up, caught off guard. "Not proud of it," he said. "But yeah." Her hand stilled on the fabric. "Was it for money?" He shook his head. "Once was. Then it was for survival. Later, I stopped counting reasons." She studied him quietly. "You don't seem like a cruel man." "I've been both kinds," he said. "Just depends which day you ask." The rain beat harder. The cabin groaned under the wind. She whispered, "I don't want more blood on my hands." He met her eyes. "Then you best pray those men don't come. 'Cause if they do, I won't hesitate." They came at dawn. The storm had passed, but the sky was still bruised purple. Eli was mending the fence when he saw dust rising from the ridge. 2 riders, maybe 3, heading straight for the cabin. He dropped the hammer, grabbed his rifle, and strode inside. "Clara," he said sharply, "get the kid below." She blinked. "Below?" He kicked aside the loose boards near the hearth, revealing a dark crawl space beneath the floor. "Used to stash pelts down there. Now it's yours. Go." The children scrambled down first, Clara guiding them. The youngest whimpered. "Quiet," Eli whispered. "No matter what you hear, you stay put." He replaced the boards just as the sound of hooves grew louder. Moments later, a voice outside called, "Mercer, you got company." Eli stepped onto the porch, rifle in hand. 2 men on horseback sat watching him. Both wore dusters, pistols low on their hips. "Morning," Eli said evenly. "Name's Briggs," the taller one said, grinning through yellow teeth. "We're looking for a woman. Name's Clara Mayfield. 5 brats with her. You seen her?" Eli spat into the dirt. "Can't say I have." Briggs' smile thinned. "You sure?" "Word in town is she ran this way. Got debts need settling." Eli leveled his gaze. "Don't look like a debt collector to me. More like a buzzard." Briggs chuckled. "Don't matter what I look like. What matters is she's ours." Eli's finger rested lightly on the trigger. "Not if she's under my roof." The second man, younger and mean-eyed, nudged his horse forward. "You hiding her, old man?" Eli didn't blink. "If I was, I'd tell you same thing I'm telling you now. Turn your asses around and ride out while you still can." Briggs' grin vanished. "Careful, friend. Pike don't take kindly to folks interfering with his property. That woman ain't property." A tense pause. The wind shifted. Briggs leaned forward in his saddle. "We'll be back, Mercer, and we won't knock next time." They turned and rode off, kicking up a trail of dust. Eli watched until they disappeared behind the ridge. Only then did he let out a slow breath. He went inside, pried up the boards. Clara crawled out, shaking. "You heard?" he asked. She nodded, eyes wet. "They'll come back." "Yeah," he said grimly. "And next time, they won't just talk." The days that followed were thick with dread. Eli reinforced the door, stacked barrels near the windows for cover. Clara cooked quietly, speaking little. The children grew restless, sensing danger even in their play. One night, Eli caught the eldest boy, Tommy, trying to sneak outside with a knife. "Where you going?" Eli asked. "Gonna stop 'em," the boy said fiercely. "Ain't letting them take Ma." Eli knelt, hand firm on his shoulder. "Listen to me, kid. Protecting your Ma ain't about dying for her. It's about living long enough to keep her safe. You understand?" The boy's jaw quivered, but he nodded. Eli smiled faintly. "Good. Now go help your sisters pack the cellar. We may need to run come morning." But they didn't wait till morning. It happened that night, moonless, cold, the kind of quiet that warns of death. Eli woke to the distant bark of a dog, then the crunch of boots outside. He grabbed his rifle, motioned Clara to hide the children. "Stay low," he whispered. "Don't make a sound." Then came the knock, heavy, slow, deliberate. "Mercer, A voice boomed. "We told you we'd be back." Eli stepped to the door, rifle raised. "You ain't welcome. Open up or we burn it down." Eli didn't answer. He waited, counted 3 heartbeats, then fired. The first shot shattered the night, tearing through the doorframe. A man outside screamed. Gunfire exploded in reply. Glass shattered, bullets ripped through the walls. The children cried out. Clara clutched them close beneath the table. Eli crouched behind the barrels, firing between reloads. Smoke filled the cabin. The smell of gunpowder and pine pitch thick in the air. A bullet grazed his arm. He didn't flinch. He shot again. One man fell. Another cursed and ran for cover. "Clara!" he shouted. "Out the back, go." She hesitated, eyes wide. "Not without you." "Now!" She grabbed the children, pulling them toward the back door. The youngest stumbled. She lifted him, clutching tight. Outside, rain began to fall. Soft at first, then hard, drumming on the roof like thunder. Eli fired his last round, dropped the rifle, and drew his revolver. He waited for the next shadow, in the doorway. When it came, he shot twice. The man fell backward into the mud. Then silence. Just the rain and Eli's ragged breath. He pressed a hand to his shoulder, blood seeping through his shirt. Through the haze, Clara's voice reached him. "Eli!" He turned. She stood in the downpour. Children huddled behind her. Lightning flashed, painting her in silver light. Eli staggered toward her, pain flaring with every step. "They'll come again," she said, trembling. "Then we'll be gone before they do," he said. "Pack what you can. We ride at first light." Her eyes filled with tears. "You're hurt." He smiled faintly. "Ain't the first time." She pressed a trembling hand to his cheek. "Why you doing this, Eli?" He looked down at her. Mud, rain, blood all mixed between them. "'Cause maybe Savon, you is the one right thing I got left to do." They stood there in the rain, the cabin smoking behind them, the children clinging to their mother's skirt. And somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled again, low, angry and coming closer. Eli stared toward the dark ridge, jaw set. He knew what waited there. Jonas Pike wasn't done, and neither was he. The sky over Dust Creek boiled black with thunderclouds, the kind that rolled low and angry, dragging lightning to the hills like a curse. Wind howled through the chinks of Eli Turner's cabin, snuffing the fire to embers. Inside, fear hung thicker than the smoke. Clara stood by the door, her face pale in the stormlight. The children, 5 of them, huddled together under Eli's old buffalo hide, watched her with wide, frightened eyes. The youngest boy whimpered, and she hushed him with trembling hands. Eli checked his rifle again, jaw clenched tight. He'd spent years keeping to himself, believing silence and distance could bury a past. But now, standing guard over this woman and her brood, he realized how wrong he'd been. Trouble always found you, especially when you finally had something to lose. The storm and the warning. The first shot cracked through the storm. It echoed across the ridge like a warning from God. Eli dropped to the window, peering into the dark. Through the curtain of rain, he saw 3 riders, torches blazing, weaving up the hill trail. "They found us," Clara whispered. Eli's voice was low, steady. "Get the kids to the root cellar. Now." She didn't argue. She grabbed the little ones, pushing them toward the trapdoor by the stove. But the eldest, Mary, 12 and fierce, stayed. "I can help," she said, chin trembling. Eli looked at her, then at the shotgun hanging by the door. He pulled it down, checked the chamber, and handed it over. "You stay behind me. Don't shoot unless you have to." Mary nodded once, swallowing her fear. Outside, rain pounded the earth into mud. Eli stepped out onto the porch, the wind slamming against him like a wall. The torches below flickered, orange against the black hills. He recognized the lead rider even before the lightning lit his face. Cole Danner, a man Eli once called a friend, before greed turned him cruel, before he started running women and families off their land for the mining company down in Red Bluff. And Clara's husband had worked for him. Now the pieces fit, the past unearthed. Clara came back up from the cellar, soaked from the rain. Her hair plastered to her face. "It's Danner," she said, her voice shaking. "He killed my husband. Burned our home when I tried to take the children and leave. He said he'd find us no matter where we went." Eli's eyes hardened. "And he did." Clara's hands tightened around the rifle. "I won't run again." He looked at her then, not as a woman he'd taken pity on, but as someone who'd been fighting a war alone. Lightning split the sky, and for a moment he saw the truth in her eyes, a mother's fire, bright and unbreakable. The siege. The riders came fast. Hooves thundered. Voices shouted through the storm. "Turner over, Eli." Danner's voice carried above the rain. "Ain't worth dying for trash that don't belong to you." Eli stepped out from the porch, rifle raised. "You talk too much for a man who hide behind fire." A gun barked. A bullet sparked off the post beside his head. He dove behind a rain barrel and returned fire. 1, 2, 3 shots, driving the riders into the rocks. The storm swallowed the sound, thunder cracking like cannon fire. Clara knelt by the door, reloading, her hand steady now. Mary crouched beside her, watching, learning, trembling, but not crying. Inside, the cellar door creaked. The children whimpered. Eli shouted over the wind, "Clara, they'll try to flank the ridge. We can't stay boxing." "Then where?" she yelled. "The old trail, up towards Sundown Ridge. We move now or we die here." The flight through the storm. The escape was chaos, mud, screams, thunder. Eli led the way through the trees, the lantern's glow swaying in his hand. Clara carried the baby. Mary kept the shotgun close, and the younger ones clung to her skirts. Behind them, gunfire flared through the rain. Danner's men were closing in. Eli turned, fired twice, hitting one rider who fell screaming into the ravine. But another shot grazed his shoulder, spinning him to his knees. Clara was there in an instant, dragging him up, eyes fierce. "Keep moving," he growled. They stumbled to the downpour until the trees opened to a ridge, a narrow rise above the canyon. Wind tearing at them like claws. Below, the floodwaters roared brown and violent. It was the end of the trail. The last stand at Sundown Ridge. Eli turned to face the path they'd come. Through the sheets of rain, torches bobbed like ghosts. Danner and his men were climbing fast. He pressed his rifle into Clara's hands. "You stay behind the rocks. Keep them safe." "What about you?" He gave her a tired half-smile. "I've been running from something my whole damn life. Guess tonight I stop." Before she could speak, he stepped forward, into the storm, into the gunfire. The fight was quick, brutal. Eli dropped one man with a clean shot, another with a swing of his rifle butt. But Dan was coming straight for him, firing wild, cursing his name. Lightning flashed, the two men, soaked and snarling, slammed together, fists in fury. "You should have stayed out of this, Turner." Danner spat, shoving him into the mud. Eli coughed, blood mixing with rain. "And let you burn another family? Not this time." They grappled, slipping on the rocks. A flash of steel, Danner's knife. It cut deep into Eli's side, but he held on, driving the man back toward the edge. Another flash of lightning. Another roar of thunder. Then Danner's foot slipped. Eli shoved once, hard. Danner's scream was lost in the storm as he plunged into the raging river below. The aftermath. The rain began to ease, leaving only the hiss of wind through the grass. Eli staggered, clutching his side. Clara ran to him, catching before he fell. The children crowded close, faces streaked with mud and tears. "You're bleeding," she said. He smiled weakly. "I've had worse." But the blood kept coming. He sank to his knees, looking out over the ridge, where the clouds were breaking apart, sunlight spilling like gold through the dark. Clara gripped his hand. "You saved us." He looked at her, voice rough. "No, you saved yourself. I just stood beside you." Mary's small hand found his. "Are you going to be okay, Mr. Eli?" He forced a breath, a half-smile. "Yeah, kid, just tired as all." And with that, his eyes slipped shut as the thunder rolled away into silence. Epilogue. The man they remembered. Weeks later, the land dried. Spring crept over Dust Creek again. The cabin was rebuilt, stronger this time. Clara worked the field with her sleeves rolled up, the children laughing nearby. Mary carried water, her shotgun still propped near the door. And on the ridge above, a single wooden cross marked the place where Eli Turner made his last stand. Clara came there often. She'd bring wildflowers and talk to the grave like an old friend. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, she said softly, "You gave more than $7 worth of kindness, Eli. You gave us a life." The wind stirred the grass, gentle and warm, as if answering. Narrator's closing, reflective tone. Out here, in the land between dusk and dawn, it wasn't gold or guns that proved a man's worth. It was heart. Eli Turner didn't die rich, but his name lived longer than any coin ever could. So, what do we take from this tale? Maybe it's this. The frontier tested more than a man's aim. It tested his soul. And sometimes, kindness was the bravest shot of all.